Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass is one of the greatest games I have ever played. And the ways it tackles its narrative and its gameplay has caused me to rethink about storytelling and game design, and in the end, it even made me rethink a bit about my life. I guess that's my TLDR. Hey guys, Spacey Soundy here. This is gonna be a good one. I'm glad you're here. So have you ever had that game that you heard about before it came out, and you were so hyped for it, but then it actually comes out and you play it like 3 years later? Well, that's Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass for me. So what happened? Well, you see, no, I'm just playing. I guess I kind of just forgot about the game. And I really was inspired seeing this trailer back then. I was amazed. This game was made by one person, Casey Ozimi. Sorry in advance for pronunciation, but if you know me by now, you've probably already lost all faith in me anyways. But I mean it, Casey did everything. The world, the music, the story, the gameplay, the absolutely insane amount of content here. I mean, they didn't do all the plugins and the scripts and stuff, trust me. Us RPGMAKER devs would be nothing without the dopular script makers. So just seeing the trailer, I was blown back. I even remember going to Casey's Tumblr to ask about how they did their music and such. Not to get ahead of myself, but the music here is fantastic. I mean, typically jacks of all trades are masters of none, but when it comes to the art, the music, the writing, the game design, I'm blown back. Okay, alright. Let's all calm down. You people are being way too hyper right now. Chill. Let's start at the beginning. Keep in mind that I didn't read any descriptions or anything about this game going in, which I'm kind of thankful for, else my thoughts on the beginning would be pretty different. Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass is a game made in RPGMAKER and was released in August of 2018. You play the role of an 8-year-old kid named Jimmy, who has the ability to imagine himself as different monsters and uses these to explore the world, going on an adventure with his family to stop a seemingly growing entity known as the Pulsating Mass, which threatens to corrupt and destroy this world. As an RPG, you aren't alone, bringing along a number of different party members to help you out in battles, all while you travel across a vast world with multiple continents and varied locations. I know this all seems kind of basic, except for the transformation stuff, but trust me when I say this is one of the wildest stories I've ever sat through. And also, it may not be obvious, but this is a horror game. I know. And I mean, this is one of the scariest games I've ever played. But Spacey, this game looks so happy and wacky. How can it be scary? That's how it gets ya. That's the kind of horror that gets me. One that can switch from being happy one moment to horrifying the next. It's not something you ever expect. You'll be moving around these pretty and chill locations, only to find something kinda off. You explore a bit and the music dims, and suddenly you're just greeted with monstrosities.
Oh my God!
This is the kind of game where you'll be in this jokey quiz to try and join a gang, then 1 minute later leaving and seeing a guy who failed the quiz impaled on some spikes. This is the kind of game where you'll be hanging out with these mouse people in a town called Smile, only the next to watch your teddy bear friend convince someone to kill themselves. What the heck? Having a chill walk on the beach, then just stumbling upon this dead whale, its stomach having like an opening with teeth on it and crab. It's weird. It kind of reminds me of being a kid. How you can be having a fun and exciting time, but then something weird happens and suddenly everything is scary, you don't understand it. And the deeper you go in this world, the more it seems to be prevalent. But there's also always this bright, cheerful, and comedic side. It kind of gives off that emotional, vulnerable side that kids have. These changes are sudden, abrupt. It creates this emotionally dissonant experience where you aren't sure how to feel. And when things are happy, it's only a matter of time before the horror comes back. And some of the areas here do mess me up. I'm really glad I went into this game blind. The visuals also do a great job. This is some disturbing sprite work. I always found gore to be a lot more disturbing and gross in pixelated form. I actually find some of these designs to be pretty cool. One of the aspects that help with the horror is the soundtrack. Now don't get me wrong, a majority of the soundtrack are ultra jammers. I'm actually shocked at the quality of these songs, like Casey popped off. The battle songs especially go in, even if I'm also a fan of the comic tracks you hear too. Like the first battle song you listen to, Motion Sickness, I thought was kinda whack at first, but if you get the fight to last long enough past the halfway point, the drop is a total jam. I always get down to this. Okay, this is an RPG, after all, so we got battles. And I'm gonna be honest, this is one of the funnest and most unique and interesting battle systems I've experienced in a game. This game takes everything I wanted, but not in ways that I would expect. It really is as fresh as the battle transition says it is. Speaking of which, random encounters, red exclamation marks, battle begins. But if you're a high enough level, you get a green exclamation mark, and you can actually skip encounters with a button press. I have been seeing this system a lot as of late. Is this the true way or something? I actually do like this, but it is pretty funny when you go into a new area and you already get the option to skip enemies you've never even seen. Not sure what determines the skipping entirely. Sometimes I'll get the option to skip a certain encounter, but other times I'll be forced to fight the same encounter. But regardless, you're gonna get into some fights. 4 party members. Each party member besides Jimmy has 6 equipment slots. Nice! Weapon, armor, 2 accessories, 2 manuals, and unchangeable unique passive, which doesn't count as an equipment slot. Jimmy lacks the 2 manual slots. What's interesting about this game is that party members technically don't learn any new skills, at least not from leveling. The skills they start with is what they have, but you can give them skills in the form of manuals, alongside some equipments giving skills as well. I know it's crazy, but I've done some absolutely bonker builds in this game. This is just the kind of game where due to both gameplay and plot, you will never be doing the same thing. Party members get thrown around, killed off, leave the party so much that I'm just gonna talk about the party member you'll always have, Jimmy. Jimmy is very unique. As stated before, he can take the form of several monsters via empathy. These unlock throughout the story, with a couple optional ones too. They all have their own movesets, alongside stat altering modifiers that affect Jimmy's base stats. For example, the low level goon has plus 10% attack, plus 20% luck, while also giving negative 10% magic defense and negative 20% magic attack. Or, well, I guess it's called Moxie defense and Moxie attack, but because MP is Moxie points in this, but I guess it's still called magic attack. I'll be honest, I don't know why I put this in the script. Anyways, so you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, I'll use the low level goon transformation when I want to do some physical attacks, right? Well, not entirely, because of the exclusive skills each transformation has. The goon can steal from enemies, and he also has half 5, which is a really strong healing skill. Furthermore, every transformation has their own experience and level up systems. You may have noticed, but every time you level up the goon, Jimmy gets a permanent stat upgrade to his luck, and every transformation has these kind of benefits. But you gotta keep in mind, this experience only goes to the transformation you win the fight with. Pay attention, things are about to get awesome. As you level up these transformations, you'll also unlock new skills and passives. But Spacey, these are the same skills the class comes with already. Take a look at this. You can equip these skills. You see these slots marked with stars? Skills equipped here will be able to be used by all other transformations. So that dope high 5 healing skill that the goon has, I can use that with everyone if I put it here. Or the steal he has too. You just have to level up the transformation enough to unlock it. Passive skills aren't innate to the transformation, making them pretty unique, offering up things like the goon giving a huge luck bonus or getting more money after a fight. So if the stars represent skills that all transformations get, what about these dots? Well, they're for when you turn back into Jimmy, no transformation. He retains all these skills and even gets 3 passives compared to 1. So you really do spend the entire game building this character that might just be the most versatile party member to exist. He can really do anything. Not only can he play any role, but he can switch forms mid-battle. There's a 3-turn cooldown on this, but what this creates is not only a character who can switch and adapt to battle, but combo certain abilities to create plays to handle any situations, all depending on how creative you are. Check this. I was Bird Form Jimmy, which focuses mostly on buffs and debuffs while being really fast. We were up against a bunch of enemies that outsped the party, and needless to say, they were gonna slap us up. Oh no! So what did I do? Hyperactivity is a skill that doubles Jimmy's agility, making him always go first, but this is an instant buff. It happens as soon as you use it. It just doubles the MP cost of any skills you use this turn. So I activated the buff. Jimmy is going first now. Then I switched to the Pumpkin Ghost, a mage transformation. Here I used Mana Burn, another instant skill that gives me a huge damage buff at the cost of MP drain over the next few turns. That's fine, hopefully this setup will let me end the battle on the first turn. Finally, I used Combust, a magic skill that hits all enemies. What resulted is Jimmy using a powered up skill with an agility boost to ensure that he would go first that attacks all enemies. This game is full of that. It's not about unlocking newer and stronger skills, it's about seeing what you can do with what you have. It's very skill and knowledge based over the grind. There were new ideas I was thinking about by the end of the game, like 50 hours in. Yes, this game took me like 50 hours to beat. The amount of content here is insane. And there was no padding here, no real point where you have to revisit a huge area or backtrack. Back to topic, the one thing I realized 50 hours in is the biggest mistake I made throughout this game. You see, I thought switching to Jimmy's normal form with no transformation was something you would never do, not until the end of the game when you fully built him. What I forgot is that you can freely switch to normal Jimmy, giving access to all the skills you currently have set to him, and when the battle is about to end, switch to the transformation you want the XP to go towards. That's when I realized that this is why enemies have health bars, to let you know the progress of the battles at all times, to know when a boss is about to be defeated so you can swap to the transformation you want to get the bonus XP for. It's genius. And these big brain thoughts aren't just for Jimmy. There's a party member named Lars with a skill that lets him go to sleep, but he gets a full heal. But here's the thing, this skill always goes first. So if you know the fight is going to end, you can use this skill, win the battle, and Lars basically just got a free full heal, because status effects don't carry after battle. This is a game all about discovery. And honestly, saying any more cool things like that, it's spoilery. It's up to you to find out these unique combinations that you can come up with. This is one of the most versatile RPGs I've ever played, and this is also due to the equipment and how it's handled. There are the standard equipments you find at shops that increase the stuff you expect, but these are heavily outnumbered by the absolutely insane amount of unique equipment you can find randomly by doing side areas, fighting hidden bosses, secrets. Your characters will always be changing. At one point, my traditional mage character, Andrew, became a full-on physical fighter when I found equipment that gave me a plausible build towards that. At one point, my healer could do more damage than anyone else in my party. It's because equipment is so unique. You'll find equipment that super buffs certain stats, but maybe it saps your HP or lowers other stats. But you can mix sapping equipment with equipment that gives you a regen boost to counter this. There will be weapons you equip just for the bonuses. Like the Kran's weapon, it sucks as a normal attack, but they give a massive bonus to Jimmy's magic attack, perfect for a magical build. How about that Dreamstone Weapon? This is a weapon that's normal attack is not towards your enemies, but your party members. Using it will let you choose one party member, and when the user's turn comes up, they use the Dreamstone to ultra buff the party member. But guess what? That buff only lasts until the end of the turn. So if the person with the Dreamstone buffs someone who has already taken their turn, nothing happens, the buff just wears off. So what did I do? I began to check my party members' agility stats, and I purposely gave gear to slow them down while giving gear that sped up the Dreamstone wielder, until I made sure that their agility was high enough to get the buff off first. Are you hearing what I'm saying? This isn't something you do in most RPGs, man. Like, I'm doing all this stuff for a weapon, something you traditionally attack enemies with. And the thing is, because of the amount of different side content, you can potentially miss or get a lot of these items at different times. There were quite a few items I never got that drastically would have changed how I played with certain characters. So what this creates is a game where everyone will have their own strategies they develop, with more tools for customization as the game goes on. There are so many ways to handle battles. You really get to play how you want. It's a puzzle with thousands of solutions. I found myself completely changing builds for certain encounters because I thought, oh, this would be a perfect way to counter this enemy strategy. I know I shouldn't say this, but another example of a cool thing I found out is how characters synergize with one another. One of the characters, Andrew, has a skill that makes the next attack done to a certain enemy do triple damage. So I made a different character, Lars, use a skill that makes everyone target him, and then also used a counter skill. So the counter attack did triple damage to the enemy that tried to attack. No! And while this is all cool, we haven't even talked about the enemies. I have never guarded so much in an RPG. It's not like Casey did anything special to the guard, it's just the normal guard. But so many times, enemies will waste a turn doing something with some flavor text, and this means that next turn, they're going to use a powerful skill. And this isn't just a rare basis, nearly every enemy in the game has a charged attack like this. So ideally, you guard this, but this is Jimmy in the Pulsating Mass. So that's not the only answer. What if the enemy has low enough HP that you could beat them before it happens? How many party members outspeed this enemy? Can Jimmy use that double agility hyperactivity skill I mentioned earlier to sneak in a kill? But Spacey, against a boss, you'll have to guard. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not mentioned the startle mechanic? Startle it's genius. Like, it's so smart. Even to how it's introduced. Some of the first enemies in this game will constantly startle you. So what is it? Startle is a status effect that prevents you from acting on that turn, and goes away after the turn. When the turn ends, the person who got startled will become alert, preventing them from becoming startled again. Alert lasts until the end of that turn, but every time you get startled in a fight, the counter for how long the alert lasts increases. So if you get startled twice, then you get 2 turns of alert, etc. The thing about status effects and attacks in general from your party is that they never miss. So the startle is a guaranteed setup. If the enemy is about to destroy your party and your party's HP is low, go for the startle. Jimmy's bird form, the one with the double agility skill, alongside having a plus 20% buff to Jimmy's base agility, has a skill that gives startle. Furthermore, you can buy a certain item that startles enemies as well, letting anyone in your party do it. It has multiple uses too. For example, if an enemy is currently grasping someone, or they have someone under mind control, startling them will get rid of these status effects. Same goes for if the enemy is in a certain state you don't like. Flying enemies can't be hit by physical attacks, so you have to startle them to get them down or use magic. There's multiple solutions. Listen people, I'm gonna try my best to find footage for all of this, but I got a lot to sift through, so I'm sorry if I'm not showing everything I'm saying. One of my favorite boss encounters that I think is a starring example of how the enemy design in this game is the battle against Big Enormous, Punch Tanaka, and Didi. It's amazing. Let me tell you something, this game isn't easy, and it feels so good to play an RPG that doesn't hold back punches. Every enemy here has their own strategy that you have to learn throughout the fight, such as Punch's charged attacks being either a strong physical attack or a counter, while Big Enormous can super buff the party. It was only very late in the fight that I realized this, but Didi was always going first, and she has this attack that hits and startles the whole party. So what did I do? I switched to Slime Jimmy and used the skill that gave her an agility debuff, so by the time she used that startle skill on the party, all of our turns were already over, making it useless. It took me 5 minutes into this fight to realize this, and that's when I knew that this game was brilliant. So with all that, you might be thinking we're done with the battle system, and we are. So let's talk about exploration. Psych, sucker! I haven't even told you about the furniture system yet, and I know what you're thinking. Spacey, if you fool me again, I'm gonna schwack you so hard you're going to be asleep on a piece of furniture. Hey, let me explain. Stealing in this game typically either gives you enemy specific effects, like stealing food from a vending machine enemy and then sharing it with the party, or furniture.
Give me that.
You have a clubhouse that you can visit, where you can use music you find alongside your furniture. Furniture gives buffs to all party members in the form of stat increases. However, they come in sets. If you fulfill a set bonus, you can get a unique effect, like giving your party members an actual evasion stat, or an HP regeneration buff, or buffing how strong items are. I know this sounds like a lot, but honestly, I just slapped down random pieces of furniture with no thought for like 30 to 40 hours of my playtime. I just didn't care. But by the end, I was popping off when I saw enemies with certain furniture pieces, or I found a piece of furniture, like oh snap, I hope this is part of the fuzzy set. That's what I like about the side content in this game. All mechanics still tie back to the battle system. Exploration in this game is pretty good. Dungeon design is not the most interesting. Some have some unique mechanics, and some feature moments where you can use your abilities to access secret areas, because all transformation have field effects that you can use. Some puzzles even requiring you to use several of these abilities together. But you know what, I'll take basic dungeons with split paths leading to items rather than dungeons that take like 2 hours because they have some unbearable gimmick. Like, hey, I'm trying to experience the game's world and story, not slide around on ice puzzles all day. Exploration is seen in the form of the world map as well, and traveling through areas isn't cumbersome at all. Not only do you have access to items that will teleport you back to the world map from nearly anywhere, but upon finishing an area, you can freely walk over it. It's a very chill game in that regard. You can save anywhere, healing is free, and if you're having a hard time, you can even lower the difficulty. Also, a thing I'm a huge fan of, tons of optional dungeons with super bosses that reward you with really cool equipment. This stuff is everywhere, and some of it can be tackled pretty early. Farther acceleration, a ton of side games and stuff that honestly distracts me every time. The Dark Dungeon, dear god, these arcade games? Catch me at the arcade. Like I said earlier, these all tie into the gameplay. I can use arcade tickets to buy items I can only get from there. I know it might sound bad that you have to do these side games to get these equipment, but you can also just use money to buy tickets. This isn't true for the other things like the arena or the Dark Dungeon, because those are still focused around the general RPG gameplay. I guess the final thing I want to touch on is the transformations again. It's pretty common with systems like this, including the game that the dev has confirmed inspired this system, to be a grind fest. Like dang, I have to level all these different transformations? Well, no. It's kind of cool because it tracks what you use, like, oh, you've been using the magical transformation a lot? Well, you can be rewarded by having a stronger magic attack. And because they level like normal characters do, as the game progresses and the player gets more XP from encounters, it becomes easier to level up transformations you may not have touched. So it always gives you a chance to change. I won't lie, I still had moments where I grinded, but I guess that was more out of my choice, and me accidentally stumbling onto a super boss and also completely screwing Jimmy by leveling a dumb transformation. We'll get to that. I guess the one thing I don't like is that passive skill that the flower has. The flower transformation has a passive skill that increases the amount of XP your transformations get. I really don't like this. One, it kind of manipulates me into thinking that I should be hard focusing on leveling the flower and nothing else until I get that passive. I know I shouldn't for the reasons I just stated about how leveling balances itself out as the game goes on, but it psychologically made me feel bad for not focusing on the flower to get that skill. And little did I know, it wouldn't be until like 30 or more hours in that I would actually be able to get it. Another thing that sucks about it is, remember how I said transformations can only benefit from one passive skill? Well, you're going to be feeling sorry if you don't have this passive set at all times when you do unlock it. You're just wasting XP if you don't. And this isn't the kind of game where you'll be maxing out these different classes and then moving on to the next. I think I only got 1 or 2 transformations past level 50. and if level 99 is the max, yeah, good luck. This passive Calamity sucks more because this is the only passive in the game that doesn't help Jimmy in any way. So what we have is an ability that is a no-brainer to have on at all times as the transformations passive, which is pretty limiting, while also having no benefits towards Jimmy himself. I know, just don't use it, Spacey. You don't understand. Some people just can't. I feel bad not always using this skill unless I know a boss is coming up. It usually hurts my mental and stresses me. Am I blowing this out of proportion? This might be something I have to have the opinion of others about. But still, that is a very tiny speck overall. Like, do you see how long I've been talking about the gameplay? It really does make me rethink several things about game design. Like, I agree with enemies not being able to crit you or being able to normally dodge your attacks, but then it's like, all of your attacks can crit, including magic? Yeah, I guess. Should ends be free? How about the banking system? Is that a good idea? You can only hold a maximum of 10 of a single item. Is that a good idea? It has its ups and downs, you know? Or how about the skill progression? No skills are really stronger than the other, as skills that are usually powerful have higher cooldowns. This isn't the kind of game where it's like, Fire, Fira, Firaga, subscribe to Spacey Sounding, consider donating to my Ko-Fi Aja. Which makes this sort of a game where MP conserving is really hard, because normal attacks are trash, and everything costs a lot of MP. How about how most of the game you won't have a set in stone party? Like 10 hours in, I only have like a 2-person party, but a couple of hours back I had a full party. There are several party members with unique abilities that you will use for hours, but then they'll suddenly get removed for basically the rest of the game. When you see a X's equipment has been removed, don't expect to see that character for a few hours, if ever. I feel like a lot of the design here I think about is character and story, and how it's treated in a way that's nearly the opposite of what I do, but might be better honestly. I know you may be looking at this game and you think it's very unoriginal or uninspired looking, oh just another wacky RPG. But this is honestly one of the most refreshing and unique RPGs I've ever played. Like, there were days where I just sat down for like 9+ hours just playing this game. And this is someone with a short attention span and has really hard trouble focusing on things. And it's not like I was just engaged with the gameplay, because the story here is absolutely insane. You will never see what's coming up in this crazy adventure. I was gonna do a whole story review, but I'll be honest, there's just too much that happens in this game. I couldn't summarize it. I mean, this game took me nearly 50 hours to beat. So I'm just gonna talk about random things I liked before tackling the ending. The general gist of the story is that an evil entity known as the Pulsating Mass is slowly devouring the world, corrupting and killing people, and seeks to kill Jimmy. Jimmy, separated from his family, goes on a journey, slowly bringing everyone back together in order to find a way to stop the Pulsating Mass. That's a very simplified version of the story, but I truthfully think this game is more about the characters and learning about who they are, rather than focusing on stopping the Pulsating Mass. I went into this game blind, so I had no idea that this was supposed to be Jimmy's dream world, which makes sense considering it seems like everyone in this world knows who Jimmy is. And things are taken kind of lightly. I mean, not really the gore, but how people react to it, and any other adult stuff that Jimmy isn't too knowledgeable about. Like how 2 people together that got married just suddenly had a child, like instantly, because he has no idea how that crap works. The way he imagines how his family would react to certain things is interesting too. Like, how accurate is this to his real family? But yeah, it was only like until the end of the game I realized, hey, this is actually a dream world, huh? Even though there were several signs saying it was. I'm dumb. I think the characters in Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass might be one of the best parts of it. Characters, not just playable characters, but also side NPCs, go on their own journeys and have their own stories. Like, most of them don't stay in the same place. I remember going back to talk to a certain NPC, only to be like, oh yeah, they moved elsewhere. When you start the game off, the first town you go to, Smile, is full of characters, but one of the plot points is seeing how empty it becomes by the end of the game. There's something cool about seeing stuff like Mr. Grouse's rise to fortune throughout the game, ultimately becoming corrupt by greed and fame. And it's not like you beat him and he learns his lesson, he still just stays the same. I like that. I like that there are all these stories going on the side. Like, I found everything with the mice to be so good, and it's just side content. I thought Mr. Cat was cool too, just this guy who never talks, and you end up visiting his place, and you get this nightmare dungeon where it's like, what's happening with this guy? It was fun going on the wiki and seeing what other people thought, which maybe theories and interpretations shouldn't be the point of a wiki, but still. This game really gives that vibe I love, of a world that many people are doing their own thing in, and I think seeing all the characters and where they end up by the end of it is pretty cool. Also, Mr. Marvelous, love this guy. I guess I'll focus on the main characters now, which are Jimmy's family mostly. These are the playable party members, so okay, let's get one thing straight. Helga is awesome. Both as a character and a party member, because she's up there as one of my favorite characters in this game, but also top 10 strongest RPG members, at least for the early game. She will carry you so hard throughout the game. She has party-wide and strong single healing skills, so you might assume she's just a healer, but buddy, you don't know the half of it. Her physical stat is kind of insane. Throw a physical skill manual on her and she just wipes people. Furthermore, her passive makes her immune to most of the status effects you'll deal with, and if that wasn't enough, she's also super fast, which means for a good majority of the game, she has the ability to just delete an enemy at the start of a battle. It's amazing. Helga is a beast, an absolute powerhouse. Though she is a bit of a glass cannon, I suppose. And by the end of the game, I basically had her set up so she had like 20% HP and MP regen every turn, which was a pretty funny build because she just had infinite MP. Though she was just support then. She's just a fun upbeat character. I love during the part where everyone gets captured and put into this arena tournament, Helga just mows down the competition. Then when she has to fight Jimmy, she just screws around, spending most of the fight healing Jimmy and looking at the crowd. Helga is awesome. And also a pretty dope singer too. Catch me at the next Helga and the Phantoms show, man. I'm down. I really like Lars, more from a story perspective than a gameplay one. Like, gameplay wise, he's the tank. Really good defense, decent offense, but I basically just spam taunt and counter with him. Maybe I just don't like slow characters, because a lot of the times he didn't really get to act before everyone else already finished the battle. But he's also one of the characters that get the most development story-wise. He's basically a nice, chill dude that plays video games and watches anime with Jimmy. But he's also a jobless freeloader who doesn't do much for the family. You can really feel for the guy because he's aware of this stuff. It's just a rough situation, and I can see a lot of people hating him for this. I like the section of the game where it's showing his relationship with other family members through these fighting game-esque versus screens. He ends up falling in love and marrying Hitomi, a character literally from the anime him and Jimmy would watch. And I guess it's kind of bittersweet, because this is just the dream world. So while Lars got his happy ending here, it's probably not the same in the world outside Jimmy's dreams. Maybe in some ways you can interpret that Jimmy likes Lars a lot, and sort of dreams him up of having a redemption arc, having these moments where he's brave and strong, and just the amount of attention Lars gets here. Like when everyone gets separated at one point, Jimmy ends up with Lars. I like how subtle the writing in this game is too. Like, you finally meet Andrew after the family has been split up for hours, and he has this whole conversation with Jimmy and Helga. Then when it's all over, he just looks over at Lars and acknowledges his existence with just a simple Lars, and that's it. You can really tell this family feels about one another without things being told outright. I'll be honest, I'm kind of mixed on Buck. He's pretty neat from a gameplay perspective. His passive allows his normal attack to attack twice, sometimes. I like giving him the dice and watching him attack twice. It was like a really poverty version of off-frame plus fixed dice from Final Fantasy VI. But with how terrible normal attacks are in this game, I feel like his passive chance would need to be 100% to make it more useful. Not like it matters, because despite being on your party for a pretty substantial part of the early game, he gets kicked out of the party for basically the rest of the game. As a character, yeah, he's a dick. But he's pretty interesting, an interesting dick, and he does stick up for Jimmy a lot. But on the other hand, he hurts bees, so that makes him an enemy of me. Jonathan, man. Or I guess Jonathan, a talking bear plush. I'll be honest, I used to sleep on him. It's true. Or maybe I should say I used to sleep with him because he's a plush. You know, some people sleep with, whatever. Jonathan is pure support. He's got attacks, he's got magic, but he's just weak. His skill that gives a party-wide status effect, cure, and shield is really good though. Nobody else really has that. His passive is cool too. It doubles the effects of items. This got me hype at first because I love the concept of characters who primarily attack using items. But in this game, battle items are typically just physical or magical and benefit a lot more from characters who are strong attackers normally. And I'm not even sure if he affects those items with his passive. His true potential shines in a way that he can turn normal healing items that you'll be using throughout the whole entire game into a super version that's basically a full heal. Here's how healing items work in this game. They recover by percents. For example, a healing item that recovers 50% of a party member's HP, or a reviving item that recovers 25% of their health and revives them. Because of this, there aren't a ton of healing items. Because it's a percent heal, it will always be relevant throughout the entire game. It's a good game dev trick to not have to bother with having a ton of different healing items. But what this means is, because you have a limited quantity of a single item you can hold, you gotta make them count. With this passive, Jonathan can revive people with more HP. He doesn't need to use the full healing items because his half healing items will heal full anyways. He's good for conserving, and this is a game where you'll be constantly short on money, so it's a really good passive. But who cares gameplay wise? It's not even worth talking about him that much. You get him for like a couple hours before Jimmy eats him into the flames. Story-wise, Jonathan is a character from a TV show, and is a really pricey plush bear that Jimmy ends up stealing. He later regrets this and hides Jonathan away, feeling guilty for what he did. Jimmy really just wants to get rid of this guy any way he can. Andrew is sort of the only character who takes the plot of stopping the pulsating mass seriously. I feel like most of the big words he says are just seemingly made up, as if Jimmy has no idea what he's saying but knows it sounds smart. In fact, to Jimmy, Andrew is the smartest guy in the world, and inspires a lot to be that smart. In terms of the plot of stopping the pulsating mass, Andrew contributes the most. I guess to Jimmy, if anyone can stop this thing, it'd be someone as smart as Andrew. Gameplay wise, he was basically the thermal bomb magic enemy sweeper. But then I found a weapon that makes him an offensive monster. So he went from mage to fighter and was one of my most useful characters. Hitomi is a party member, but I don't have much to say on her. She's just an anime character from this universe, Sailor Moon. But she does have a lot of funny interactions. She ends up marrying Lars and they have a kid. Her passive allows her to equip one more accessory than other characters. And if you know me and how hard I get over equipment slots, you probably think that she'd be my favorite character gameplay wise. But I have another rule. I don't like mixed attackers. Punch Tanaka is probably the coolest character in this game. He's the leader of a gang known as the Petty Thugs. He spent the majority of the game as a villain that doesn't really have anything against Jimmy, he's just trying to get paid by his employer. After Jonathan tells him to commit suicide, which he does, yes, I still can't get over that this actually happens, he shows up again with no memories. Going on a journey to find himself, he eventually realizes he wants to help and joins the party. It's only here that I actually started liking him because he is pretty awesome, and he helps a lot when he's kind of an odd one out, being the only party member not related to the family. I love Punch so much, like he's so cool. And is a pretty fun party member too, being able to steal and having strong physical attacks. I love his called shot ability where he straight up says 8 ball, corner pocket. Nobody knows what that means, but that's okay. Punch is great, man. He sadly gets killed off, which actually made me pretty angry, and he ends up being one of the transformations for Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy just inherits all of his abilities. This is one of the optional transformations. There are 2. They give pretty insane growths and incredible passive skills, like plus 25% to all stats, nice. But I'd rather just have my boy Punch back. Though I have to wonder if this transformation and Punch as a character being in Jimmy's dreams is some sort of idolization of what he'd be like if he were cool. Being young and thinking that someone who wears sunglasses all the time, even in the shower, is really cool. someone who rides motorcycles, with Punch even saying multiple times that Jimmy reminds him of a younger version of himself. And maybe being able to transform into Punch is sort of a wish fulfillment of who he wants to be when he grows up. Then there's Jimmy. You might think Jimmy isn't that interesting because he doesn't directly talk, but he might be one of the most fleshed out characters here. Pun intended. You can hear his thoughts on areas using his field action when you're not transformed. This is a game in his dream world, so everything here reflects that. Why is there so much gore? Well, he did watch a lot of disturbing movies with Buck. There's a lot of stuff like that, even to each character representing these somewhat simple ideas of them. For example, Helga is a singer who is always singing to Jimmy, and you end up finding her in a town full of instrument people. By the way, these instrument people are really cool. I love the character designs in this game, like Coltrane. That's a cool looking dude. Yeah, I know, of course Spacey, who's always loving horns and songs, loves the design of the literal talking brass. But back to the point. Lars always played video games and watched anime with Jimmy, so of course Jimmy finds him in this world of retro graphics and then later goes on a visual novel school episode adventure with him, with moon monsters and transforming magical girls. Hell, the Pixel world even has a plot point of a king being manipulated by an evil chancellor, being represented as the pulsating mass. It's tropey but purposeful, because those are the games that Jimmy played with Lars. Andrew is really smart, so you find him surrounded by a number of people, temples with puzzles, and enemies relating to books and equations. I also really like the detail with how Jimmy gets the afraid status effect around girls. I always love that kind of narrative getting put into the gameplay. I haven't fully gone into what is happening in this game, so I can't fully get into Jimmy as a character at the moment. Gameplay wise, my Jimmy went through a lot of phases. At first, I hard focused on luck and nothing else, which costed me because Jimmy was actually useless for a majority of the game until I realized how dumb I was being. I later tried to make Jimmy a poison tank, but then Lars already joined as a tank, so I kinda dropped that. I then focused on trying to make him a mage, with the highlight of that being grinding at the arcade to buy some crayons. I like the normal attack animation for this weapon, shame it just sucks for physical attacks. Everything changed, however, when I found this weapon. It super boosted Jimmy's agility and made it so Jimmy's normal attack was based off his agility stat. Now, if you remember, hyperactivity is a skill that doubles Jimmy's agility stat. Yes. For the rest of the game, I basically just did normal attacks with Jimmy and hard focused on agility. All I needed was 5 MP to do this. In some ways, it's kind of sad that all of this just resulted in a Jimmy that just did normal attacks, but maybe it's the journey rather than the destination. It was handy though. Jimmy was fast, I mean really fast. Like, he was outspeeding things I feel like he shouldn't have been, like enemies using counter skills. He would just outspeed and attack them before they could set up the counter. He always went first, and could do a lot of cool things with that. Needless to say, the amount of damage with this strategy cracked the hell out of this game. Sure, I couldn't attack everyone, but I was still pretty comfy, and Jimmy destroyed bosses. This is all part of good design, yeah? I found something broken powerful, and it was fun. Most RPGs are kinda like that, you know? There's always some crazy option that results in breaking the game, and trust me when I say this strategy was nothing compared to the other things people have done. I'd arguably say it wasn't that great, but I don't think there's a way to get to the end of the game and you haven't found a way to make Jimmy extremely broken. I mean, it makes sense, this is his dream world. If there's anything that's going to stop him, it'd be the pulsating mass, which... Alright. I think it's time to go into the end game, alongside the ending. I already did a spoiler warning, but here's a spoiler warning deluxe. So one odd thing, despite all the different party members, you don't really get a choice on who to use, which I suppose is good for encouraging you to do many different things with Jimmy, but your party ends up being Jimmy, Helga, Andrew, Lars. I basically did everything with this party, but at a certain point of the game, the pulsating mass has taken over the central hub of the world, and the only way to gain access is to discover the 6 Nexus orbs across the world. This is pretty cool because it allows you to both explore optional areas and necessary areas. You can't tell which is which. This also opens up probably my favorite area in the game, Rainbow Park. It's one of the areas with a Nexus orb. It's this colorful happy park with flashbacks to Helga and Andrew when they were younger, showing Helga singing, being in a band. The map is on a timer to shift to a sadder version with rain, showing more depressing thoughts like Helga being sad, having her dreams of being in a band kinda destroyed thanks to having a kid with Andrew. Even Jimmy's thoughts of this area kinda hits. It puts Helga in a different perspective than what we're used to seeing in Jimmy's dream world. Call me crazy, but I think an area like this that tells so much, like how the trees are guitars, man. I think stuff like this is beautiful. It's also just a very pleasing area to me in general with the switching music. Upon interacting with the Nexus orb, you'll get some dialogue to an event that happened outside of the dream world. I think it's now I'll drop the big revelation, which maybe I'm daft as hell, but I don't think the game ever outright tells you. It's something you eventually understand. Jimmy is infected with some disease, a deadly one that has left him in the hospital. This manifests itself here as the pulsating mass, an uncurable disease that will always come back, and always be a factor in Jimmy's life no matter how much he literally dreams of defeating it. Just look at the title screen, the colorful Jimmy text and the pulsating mass text attached to it. These Nexus orbs show us Jimmy's family members and their reactions to this. Helga, who's afraid for Jimmy's life. Andrew, in denial, trying to find some solution to help Jimmy. Buck, angry at everything that's happening, telling Jimmy that he just has to get stronger in some hopes that that will save him. Lars, who just chills all night and plays games with Jimmy. Even Jimmy himself. His orb is located in a forest full of trees with ECG monitors in them, leading to an area with a hospital in it. We find a very angry Jimmy. I'm pretty sure this is the only dialogue in the game with cussing, but it's in a blind rage way where he doesn't really understand what he's saying. He's just letting it all out like an angry little kid would. This is Jimmy's self-hatred, with his Nexus orb detailing how he's paralyzed in bed with his family around him, wishing he could suddenly get better and hug them, but he can't. I suppose the only Nexus orb I didn't entirely understand was the Jonathan one, which I guess might just be Helga finding him and giving him to Jimmy while he's in the hospital, and Jimmy finally getting over his guilt for this. There's an optional area that's extremely hard to enter. It's this volcano. You have to find all of these light bulbs hidden across the world. Doing so gives you access to Jimmy's other optional transformation, the Phoenix. In the dialogue when obtaining it, Jimmy imagines what it's like to finally die in the hospital, a place he hates so much, only to be reborn, full of energy, no longer connected to these beeping machines, to be free. Now with all Nexus orbs collected, we can confront the pulsating mass. Maybe it's because I literally did all the side content before this fight, but the pulsating mass, the final boss, is a total pushover. Jimmy defeats it, and using a magical book with the ability to get rid of it, he does, saving the world. Everyone is so proud of him, saying he looks healthy now, and they leave to go on a picnic, the giant Nexus orb flashing as the credits roll. It feels weird, almost anticlimactic in a way, like oh, that's it. Well, as you begin to watch the credits, you'll notice as it goes on, certain parts are off. Weird names for roles that credits don't usually account for, to even the cutscenes having some strange parts. We then end up back at the house. Oddly enough, Jonathan and Punch come back from the dead through this closet here, saying that the closet is the way to the world of dreams. This part is very unsettling. The song that usually plays at the house in the beginning of this game is known as An Open Window. However, what plays here now is called A Closing Window. This version of the song is just a loop of the first couple seconds of An Open Window with a rare background instrument. It feels broken, like a dying version of the original song. It really feels like things are coming to an end. We can now recruit anyone to join our party and continue going on adventures in the dream world through the closet. But trying to leave the house normally? Helga stops Jimmy, pleading with him not to go and to stay with them. But she says it's his decision and that she loves him. And that's the ending. Even going back and playing the post game, we can see that the pulsating mass is still there. We didn't defeat it. You can't interact with it in any way. It's just there, and it always will be. This whole journey was pointless. The areas it has destroyed are still dead, and it's only a matter of time until Jimmy is taken too. I guess knowing all of this now, it really puts into perspective other things that happen in this game. Like the song Helga is always singing to Jimmy, which is a song about opening your eyes, as if Helga is singing it to Jimmy in the hospital, hoping he'll get better. That's some rough stuff. Another thing that stuck out to me is your reward for completing the super hard 100 floor dark dungeon. It's a robotic statue of Jimmy. Better than the gold statue, better than the silver statue. I might regret saying this, but as someone who suffers with a chronic disease with no cure, I idolize robots and the idea of someday having my organs replaced and being able to function like most people, or at least live as long as them, maybe even live forever. And maybe Jimmy feels that way too, as this statue is extremely useful and seen as an ultimate reward. Well, that's just my crack theory based off my thoughts. Like, could you imagine if I put this crap on the wiki? It could just be that Jimmy thinks robots are cool, because they are. But yeah, I didn't really think that I'd somehow relate to this game in a way. My disease is nowhere near as deadly. I'm not quite dead yet, but me saying that might age badly sooner or later. But I found myself also thinking a lot of things that Jimmy thinks about too. Being stuck in the hospital for months can really make you hate yourself in ways you'd never think. Make you wish you were stronger. Make you wish you were born. Well, listen, I don't like hospitals. I don't like even looking at them in games. But if anything, this game kind of made me reflect on life in general. I know, corny as hell. I've accepted a lot of things about the situation I'm in and what's going to happen, my overall condition. But maybe instead, if I'm going out, I should go out fighting. That's the spacey, soundy way, baby. I've got a lot of things I want to do in life, you know? And hopefully I can keep working towards them and maybe I'll get them done someday. How motivating. Get psyched, guys. I suppose it's a pretty strange message to get from this game, but if you're here, you aren't expecting anything normal from me, are you? This is definitely a kind of game where the second playthrough will probably reveal a lot more, now with newfound hindsight. Unless if you read one of those reviews that just spoil everything from the get-go, I can't believe that crap. So going back to the dream world in the post-game, there's some post-game dungeons leading towards an ultra-hard fight against Jimmy's family, representing his guilt for all the stress he put his family through. I'll be honest, I hard grinded, but I'm just not going to be able to beat these guys. And while it's cool you get to make your own party and all that, I already did everything beforehand, you know? How was I supposed to know there's gonna be a post game and all that? I just assumed that the part of the game with the free flight and the focus on exploring the world would be the end game to get everything done. And, you know, maybe my biggest regret is that I never did get to beat those goddamn super rad ghosts that still dab on me to this day. So that's Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass. Or maybe I should call it Jimmy and the Pulsating Masterpiece, because it's a total gem. Like, video game opinions are always changing, but this is definitely a top tier game for me. It really does have everything I want in an RPG, while also telling an endlessly entertaining and depressing story. There were times where I could just sit and play this game all day because the story always had me wondering what would happen next. It was a constant ride of new sights and experiences. Like, yeah, this is underrated. This is good. God, this is good. And what's cool is that's good in its own way. This game doesn't remind me of anything else when I look at it as a whole. I can only wonder how long this game took to make considering how much love was put into it. It's magical. Good stuff, Casey. I hope they made something they're proud of. You already know where the links are, and you already know what the links will link to. Play this game. And hey, don't you know? Today's a special day. Do you know why? Because it's another day I get to tell you all about a dope video game. I'll catch y'all later. Hey, a while back, someone actually donated to me on Ko-Fi, or Ko-Fi. I don't give a dick. That's pretty awesome though, right? I don't know if they want me to show their name or anything like that, because I don't think I ever promised that on the Ko-Fi, but you know who you are. Thanks. Yo, love ya. I guess a little extra side note, one of the things I didn't talk about in this video was the reoccurring thing of Jimmy having trouble reading and how words always seem to be scrambled up and the such. A lot of people say he has dyslexia and stuff like that, but you can tell this part's not scripted. I'm just going off. I didn't bring this up because I didn't want to assume things about people who have certain conditions that I don't have, you know? But I am aware it's there. I just don't really have much to say on it myself. So PS, yeah, you can tell that I made the script for this video months ago because I keep adding on to it over all these weeks. And yeah, I mean, this video was long due. Anyways, I was just looking around and I found this very cool page by Casey talking about old Jimmy, what the game used to be and look like. Like, dang, this is crazy, right? Like, I find this stuff to be so cool. I love when devs show off this kind of stuff. I just think it's so interesting. But yeah, man, this couldn't be me to ditch so many assets, all these sprites, the mechanics too, like the TP crap. Like, I don't know, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I feel like I have to use everything I make, even if that stuff ends up being pretty bad. So yeah, I just want to point this out. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm sure there's a lot of things I missed out on. I don't know, the time's been rough, you know? But yeah, you can tell this isn't scripted because I'm saying but yeah a lot. This is really, this is dope, you know? That's all I just wanted to say. Like, dang, look at Punch. Cool. But yeah, this aesthetic is pretty cool. Like, the whole crayon thing. I think this is a really neat idea, you know? And it makes me wonder if, like, the crayon item in the actual game, the crayon's weapon, I wonder if it was like a reference to how the game used to look like. I mean, I know kids play with crayons, so it could have just been that. But I think that's pretty cool aesthetic. I feel like a cool game could have been made out of this. I like the idea of the house, the colorless house, becoming more colorful as the game progresses and you finish with the chapters. But I guess on the other hand, it's a good thing that Casey scrapped this. Because even months later, I can still say that Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass is one of the best games I've ever played. I can still say that. And I guess it's a good thing that Casey ultimately got rid of all this stuff, but I'm glad they showed it off. I think this is awesome stuff. Like just reading and learning about all this stuff that would likely never see the light of day. It's like how people get so excited when they like dig into game files of like AAA games and they find all these cool unused assets and hidden debug rooms. Like people love seeing this stuff, especially for games they like, you know. But yeah, that's about it. Love y'all.